I've learned that it doesn't really matter. If it gets the job done, who cares how you got there? But it's been like things happen that I can't explain outside of I asked for it and it showed up.
I'll have what she's having.
Welcome to another edition of
Confidence.
Podcast.
Welcome back. It's Tony Dufresne. I am a girl dad therapist turned coach, empowerment coach for women, confidence coach, and this is the She Talks Confidence podcast. Welcome back. This week, another photographer. What a shocker, because for some reason, photographers have this sixth sense or this extra gear. They're so intuitive. They're such a great interview. And this week is Tori Stauffer. Tori, how are you?
Hi, great. Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
I'm super pumped at this, especially due to the fact that my personal story, and we didn't actually talk about this prior to the show, but my personal story was my daughter just fought leukemia. And so she went through that cancer survivor situation and still dealing with it in terms of the remission stuff. And so that's why I found that when you had emailed me about what your story is and being a photographer at the same time, because you have such insight to things, I thought that'd be great because you are a two-time cancer survivor, as well as we may talk about how the whole photography thing and how that kind of relates into it. But can you start with your journey in terms of that and battling that, the epiphanies that came about that, your confidence development through that very difficult life journey?
Yeah, it was crazy. You don't expect at 37 years old to be told, hey, you have cancer. It was like such a weird story where my husband had gotten laid off. And there was this little thing that I thought was nothing. It was a cyst. And I hadn't done anything about it because as a mom of four, I take care of myself last, or I used to. I don't do that
Of
anymore.
course. Right.
And honestly, if he hadn't gotten laid off and we were like downgrading insurance until he got a new job, I don't think I would have gone to the specialist. I don't think I would have caught it as early as I did. So that kind of started this journey. So when I got cancer, I was 37. It was 2019. So this was my youngest. He was 3 years old at the time, and he has autism. We didn't know that at the time,
Wow.
but he was very developmentally delayed. There was no speech. There was just a lot, and my biggest fear was he's not going to remember me. And
Mm,
it was such
mhm.
an extreme, but okay, so I got off the phone with the doctor when she said, "Hey, you do have cancer. It's just a little bit of cancer, but you have cancer." I couldn't get in till later that week. It was on the phone, and she was like, "Whatever you don't Google it." It was triple negative breast
Yeah.
cancer. So what's
Oh,
the first thing you do?
you Google that. And I have to ask you, because I've never heard of that before. What's triple negative?
I knew there were different types of breast cancers, but
Yeah.
there's different types that are respond to hormones in different ways.
Mhm.
Mine is triple negative. It does not respond to any hormone. So what I found in my research is that triple negative is a little bit different, where there's a high 90 percentage chance with most breast cancers, the survival rate for triple negative dropped down to 75%. And
Oh,
the
okay.
reason for that is it can come back anywhere. It can come back in your brain or your back or
Oh,
anywhere, not just the breast.
so I
So
can metastasize. And how does that relate to the stages though? Because that's all I know.
once it metastasizes, it's automatically stage 4. But this is one of those that kind of travels. So when we originally did my first treatment, I chose to just do a lumpectomy because there was no difference in survival rates between a lumpectomy and the double mastectomy. And it was
Mm,
going to be like 6 weeks of not having my kiddos all over me. And like I said, I had a little guy with special needs, and it was just like not, there was just, I could not wrap my brain around how that would happen.
mhm.
But I went through the full-blown chemo, and my biggest thing is I didn't want any of it to be scary for the littles. So I made them very much a part of everything.
Mm,
So my daughter was graduating high school my second week of treatment. And the second week of treatment is usually when you lose your hair. And
mhm.
so we were ready for it. My family was very supportive. It was amazing. My in-laws took the two little kids down to their beach house the week of my treatment. We had gotten in a routine. I had meals delivered. It was amazing. But the night before my second treatment, my hair started falling out. And I knew
Mm,
that I wanted the little kids involved in the shaving of my head because I didn't want them coming home and all of a sudden mommy's bald. I didn't want it to be
Yeah.
scary. I was really upset that they weren't gonna get to be a part of it, and my husband is who is amazing, he is so supportive through all of this, was like, "Let's go." We were up in Philly at the time, it was like a 2.5, 3-hour drive. It was 7 o'clock at night by the time we were gonna get down there. He's, "Let's just do it. You wanna do it, it's gonna upset you if you don't do it your way, let's go." So my friend was up from Florida, we all went down the beach and we shaved my head. And it was like a half hour we were there and then went home. And to this day, the videos are so special to me because they were included in it. No part of the cancer stuff was scary for them.
For my daughter and for a lot of women that I've talked to, the losing the hair is the toughest part or one of the toughest
Yeah.
parts. Was it the same for you?
Yes, no, the hair I was fine with. The eyebrows and the eyelashes, not so much. I could rock a bald head, no problem. And I used to have really thick hair. So it was the summer. I had no hair. It was nice. I didn't mind that part. And I didn't mind looking like a cancer patient. But the eyebrows and the eyelashes that was weird because you could put on a wig, but
Mhm.
what are you gonna, I guess I could put on fake lashes, but
Yeah,
I don't.
draw in your brows or something. Yeah.
It did, and it looked like that, and you know what? It was fine. It was that period. The thing that was really funny was when your hair comes back in, a lot of times it doesn't come back in the same. And when my hair first came back, I used to have really thick, straight hair, and when it came back in, it came back curly,
Mhm.
like really curly. And I was like, "All right, this is weird. Fine, we roll with it." And the reasoning is your straight hair is fast growing cells and curly hair is not. So cancer kills the fast growing cells. So it takes about a year for it to come back. The curly part wasn't the weird part. It was when my hair started going back to straight and I had like George Washington cut where it was like straight and then just
And
going
with
up
the
on
curly on the
it.
bottom.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. But my hair, it never came back the same. That's one of those things where it's stupid to hold on to that, but I miss it. But
No, but it makes perfect sense. It's part of you. It's part of your identity, and I think that's why most women. That's one of the toughest parts about it.
yeah.
In looking back, it was really good to involve your kids, right?
Yeah.
That's something that you go, I'm so glad that I did that.
Yeah. Right, and they remember it when the pictures come up. My kid James will be like, "Oh my gosh, mommy, remember when you were bald?" I was like, "Sure do." And he said
Yeah.
the other day, like, "When are you gonna go bald again?" I'm like, "Never. I'm not doing that again. I'm
Right?
good."
Even get rid of the George Washington thing, you're
Yeah.
just gonna
Well, we moved to Florida not that long after, and my license picture is George Washington, and it's like a 10-year license. So I'm like, "That's
right?
lost
Yeah,
sometimes."
so you can whip that thing out at any time, right?
Oh, yeah, it's all it's fine. I will say that was my first big shift in my life was you go through cancer and you have that moment of evaluating your life. Like now, I was very early on. My diagnosis of I'm dying in 3 months was not accurate. I
Mm.
did not have quite what WebMD had diagnosed me as.
Yes, thank
Um,
God.
and they said if you don't get it back in the first 4 years with triple negative, it's unlikely to ever come back. And so I just was like, boom. My mindset was, it's never coming back. Done. No problem. Whatever. But part of my cancer journey was evaluating was I happy? And I was tremendously successful. I was running a very successful photography business up in Philadelphia, but I was not happy. And I didn't quite know why. I think a lot of it was I had focused so much on my career. Building a business from the ground up took a lot of focus. And my husband, being as amazing as he is very supportive of everything I do and was like, "You need to work, go work. I got the kids," which was amazing. But what I realized was it was so easy to do that that I chose to do that a lot.
Mhm.
And I missed out on a lot of stuff that looking back, I wish I had been there for. And it was, what's that movie that it's like an Adam Sandler movie, Click, I think it's called, where he's got the like
Oh,
fast.
the remote control thing?
And I'm guilty of that. I love being a mom. I'm not a mom for babies. That is not my jam. I do not love like hanging out and staring at babies do nothing all day. And so
Mm.
I would just be like, waiting for that to be like, all right, go nap so I can go work. And that's when I worked was either when my husband was home watching the kids or when the kids were sleeping. And looking back, I regret that tremendously. I was growing a business at the time, but I was during that time at the end of the cancer thing. And then as soon as cancer was ending, COVID hit. And
Mm,
COVID up north sucked hardcore. The intensity of that's all life was about up there was
mhm.
really intense. And my husband randomly got a call one day about a job in Florida. And he was like, "Do you want to go there?" I was like, "No, that's no." And I came back a half hour later. I was like, "Maybe. Could we live in such and such town?" And he was like, "Yeah." So we picked up and we moved to Florida. And it was such a shift for me that first summer. I closed down a business that was amazing. And I started over. And as soon as I got started, I started falling into old patterns. So the construction on my studio started, and the contractor would have to be here at a certain time, and it would interfere with something that I had previously committed myself to. And I would drop it because I would put work first. And I opened up my studio in October, and in December, I found out my cancer came back. And that was the one that really hit me because it was less than 4 years later. And it was very early. Like, we caught it very early because I get scans all the time. When I got cancer the first time, I we moved to Florida, but I didn't change anything else. I still loved my nightly wine. I still ate complete crap. I still didn't exercise. I went back to just normal life. I changed nothing about what I was doing. I didn't do that the second time around. The second time around, we did say I was gonna have the full surgery. I did the full double mastectomy and reconstruction. And that was a horrible experience, but again, I'm alive, I can't complain.
Horrible physically or mentally, emotionally, spiritually, or everything.
Probably everything at different times. It was scary. There is a piece, I know they're just breath, but you are losing there is some self-identity to it, and if you
Mhm.
think losing your hair is hard. Now, I'll choose to look at it that, like, I got a mommy makeover because I had radiation less than 10 well, it was only, like, 2 years previously, I was not a candidate for normal reconstruction, so I had to do what's called a deep flap. So they open you up this sounds horrible. Well, they open you up hip to hip, and they remove tissue from your stomach area, and they move it up
Mm.
and reattach it. So in a sense, it's cool because 'cause you're getting, like, a tummy
Yeah, like
tuck.
a liposuction at the same
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
It does not look like what you think it's gonna look like after that. Like, they
Mm.
do not. It just which is again, it's fine. It's my battle scars. I've got my scar from my port that I will they talk to me all the time about scar treatment, and I was like, "Nope, I don't want it. That's my battle wound." I choose to look at the rest of my body like that at this point. But it would also be nice sometimes to not have to think about it.
Right. Did your confidence take a hit on that at any time, or did you come into it or just accept it right away that it's just part
I
of the
don't
process?
I don't think it took a hit just because I never had a whole lot of body confidence to start with. I've been out of shape since ever. I've never been athletic. And one of the times this round through with cancer was it can so because of the nature of triple negative, it can come back anywhere. They don't do, at least my doctors don't do annual scans on me full body. So
Mm.
the being that it can come back anywhere, that's scary. And I'm like, how do you know? And they're like, something doesn't feel right. I'm like, nothing ever feels right because I'm out of
Right. I
shape.
mean,
I won't take care of myself. So after I had cancer the second time, it was clean up my life. And it was start living healthy. No longer about losing weight, although I do know that was part of it, but more about getting my body in a healthy spot where if something's wrong, I feel it immediately.
and when you come up to the fact that you think that you have to do a complete overhaul on yourself, which means your physical self and your mental emotional self and your everything, the biggest question always is, what do I do first? Or where do I start? And for you, what was that?
Spirituality. I will tell you, I manifested my life in Florida. Everything I wrote down on paper and asked for, I got. And whether you want to call it manifestation or the universe or God or spirit or whatever it is, I believe it's all the same thing. And I think coming in touch with whatever that is for you, and it shifted me. That's not been something that was part of my life. And I have to back up to tell you that the moment that it got me. When I got it the first time, I kept saying to myself over and over again, if I have cancer, I hope it's just a little bit of cancer. If I have cancer, I hope it's just I didn't say I don't have cancer. I kept saying
Mhm.
over and over, if it's cancer, I hope it's just a little bit of cancer. And I swear to you, the doctor said to me when she followed me, you have cancer, but it's just a little bit of cancer. And it
Mm.
didn't hit me right then. I didn't hear the connection then. I did think to myself, "What the hell the doctor says you have just a little bit of cancer?" I was
Yeah.
like, I switched doctors because that really
Yeah.
messed now, that being said, I am the weirdo that believes both times. I'm very grateful for my cancer. I am very grateful because I would not be where I am today had I not gone through this thing. And who I am today is such just a joyful, content person. Like, just I live in a state of joy all of the time. Do bad things happen? Absolutely. But the way I choose to look at things now is just, it all shifted. And it's not, it wasn't like on a dime. Like, I made those choices. I made the choices to get healthy. I made the choices to change my mindset. Like, me getting healthy was not, it continues to not be easy. I really think about that ideal version of myself, the best version of myself. What do I look like? What do I sound like? What do I do? What are my routines? What do I read? What do I watch on TV? Do I watch just those things? And that is the only thing that has ever been able to help me shift my life and change my habits, was living my life as that person. And
Mhm.
that has been transformative.
Yeah, living as a future self or visualization into that.
Yeah.
What's been the fuel? What's been the burning thing in you that has kept you moving through the very difficult parts of this big transition that you make?
It is having learned faith, and it was a learning process for me. It did not come naturally to me. I question everything. I doubt everything. I self-sabotage like crazy. That used to be my natural state. And learning how to have faith, learning, and it's a muscle you have to flex, right? And learning that as you do put things out there as to what you want, it happens. And once you see that start to happen, it shifts you. And the reason I bring it into my confidence, because that's where I think a lot of my confidence comes from is, and I don't know if it's manifestation or if it's hardcore goal setting or just knowing how to procrastinate. Like, I think it's related. And I used to second guess it because I felt very funny talking about it. I felt very like woo, but
Mhm.
I've learned that it doesn't really matter. If it gets the job done, who cares how you got there? But it's been like things happen that I can't explain outside of I asked for it and it showed up. And that's amazing. It's cool. But then you look at people say, "But you got cancer." And I'm like, "Yeah, but there's contrast in life, right? There's really amazing and there's really crappy. And it's riding the wave and going with it. And how are you going to adjust and show up as that person every day, whether it's a good day or a bad day?"
And what keeps your mindset on track? What keeps you humming along through the ebbs and flows of all that? Would you consider that your confidence or your mental state? Or what would you consider that? How does it feel to you?
Yeah, it's self-awareness, honestly. It's being able to know, but it's starting to ask myself the question over and over, like, why do I feel like that? And starting to break down why that is. If I was going through a period of being scared, I used to just shut it off. And okay, if I started getting scared about the whole dying thing, I'd be like, I can't think about it. And I don't do that anymore. I'll say, okay, why am I scared? Like, I know all of these things. What has me scared right now? And digging into that and then dealing with that kind of gets me through it. But it also gets me through all the other stuff when I'm procrastinating. Why am I procrastinating? When I'm not confident on, okay, I'm not going to lie, like social media is a beast for me. It is not my comfortable place to be. But I know as a business owner and as someone who preaches that you need to show up confidently online,
Mhm.
sometimes you gotta just do it, but I can see when I'm avoiding it, and so now I'm very self-aware to be like, "Why are you avoiding it?" Then dig in.
Right? Yeah, it's the combination of being aware and then acting on that in terms of asking yourself why. Isn't why such a powerful question?
Yeah, but are you really willing to give the honest answer?
Yeah, but if you're not, then that's the lack of that true confidence in essence of really being true to yourself. Because if you're not true to yourself, then nothing's going to happen. Nothing good's going to happen. You'll be just floating in your gravy and wondering what's going on the whole time.
When people do the why and say, I don't know, well, figure it out.
Yeah, and
Out. Being able to answer that quickly that's a superpower.
as a therapist, you get that all the time because you ask questions, and the I don't
Yeah.
know is if I had to ever dime for every I don't know that I ever got from a client, I'd be living down there probably by you on an island. But the key is to ask them, why don't you know? It's a matter of digging a little bit further in terms of the why are you blocking yourself from having a level of awareness on the situation?
Yeah. Level of awareness is not easy. It's not a fun place to be in at the start. Like it is super duper uncomfortable. And that's one of the things that I did was I've learned to love the discomfort in a weird, creepy way. That's where I'm like, ooh,
No,
I
it's true.
go home and work on inner child work tonight. Like I'm so
Right.
excited. Like I like it's something I really truly enjoy self-development now.
Mhm. You have to have some level of understanding the end result and being okay with delayed gratification, I think, to continue on and go further with self-development because you come up against your biggest roadblocks and your biggest
Yeah.
obstacles.
One of the things I tapped into early on, I've always tried meditating and it was just like snooze fest for me. That was not my thing. And I came across Lacey Phillips has a program called To Be Magnetic. And it's all about a lot of that inner child work and all of that. And she does these deep imagining. And it was fun. It was taking you, it was like a borderline hypnosis, but not you become a chicken kind of way, in a really tapping into what is your ideal life and starting to see that and starting to really feel it, it became fun. And so I think that was a huge stepping stone for me in that. Because I think that for me, visualization and meditation is a big part of my day now. And oh, my number one thing is gratitude. I started
Mhm.
practicing gratitude. And I say practicing on purpose because it's not easy when you come from never having done it. But the amount of gratitude journals I go through, my husband, should we just buy like a cake? Like, no, I need a different one all the time.
But it works.
It's amazing.
The meditation, the visualization, and especially the gratitude exercise,
Mhm.
it works. You have to believe and you have to persevere through it. It's not going to work after doing it for a week
Yeah.
necessarily. It's a matter of getting into the groove and understanding and then opening yourself up to the process. It takes a while, but you're proof that it does work. But you have to stick to it and you have to be, like you said, you have to be uncomfortable in the process a little bit.
I will say most of this process for me has felt very weird and foreign. And every so often I'm like, oh God, I'm becoming one of those people. And like, I am a little bit. But there's something to be said because those people are ridiculously joyful.
Right?
And my gratitude practice started because I should, because I think it was my first round of cancer. And I read about starting simple. So I started with just 3 things I listed a day. Just my family, like literal, just 3 words. And it evolved little by little into the part where it became most powerful for me was when I was journaling gratitude. So I would say, I'm grateful for this. And then I would go through this flood of emotions of just living in that gratitude and just the love and the joy and whatever I was grateful, just feeling it while I was writing it. And then it did at some point evolve into me working through issues and stuff like that. So it bounces somewhere between journaling and gratitude, but it's just such an amazing tool that I have. And I will say when I'm having really crappy weeks, I'll look and I'll be like, yeah, I haven't journaled in like a week.
No. And even if somebody as dedicated as you and you understand how powerful that is, sometimes we just let off the gas a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
And then it,
And I fall off sometimes,
yeah.
but I would say a majority of the days I do, but sometimes like life is, yeah, life.
Oh, especially literally, you hit on all the points that I talk to my clients about every single day. In somebody that wants to start that, which everybody should, for the record,
Everybody should.
what's the first step? What are the initial expectations and what works in terms of that first step into that?
The thing that worked for me, because everybody's different, was number one, find a cute journal that you like, find a fun pen, make it something special. Get like a little date with yourself. And I had a special chair that I sat in, and I just had a routine kind of around it. And it was in the morning because it started my day off. But I literally just started with listing out 3 to 5 things. And it was hard. I know that sounds terrible. Listen, I live a very privileged life. I am very aware of it. I knew it then. It was still hard. I had so much to be grateful for, but I think I was coming from such a place of acknowledging problems first. And I think, especially, I don't know if it's a business owner, I don't know if it's as a parent, as a what, but you see the issues and you have to fix it. You're constantly on fix the issue. And it was very difficult, and as I did it more and more, and at first, it was all the obligatory things. "Thank you for my family. Thank you for my home. Thank you for the food that I eat." Like, it as I went on and did more and more, and then as I pushed myself, the shifting point for me where I started noticing changes was when I started elaborating on those things. So even if it, "Thank you for my family because that," and write a whole sentence out then. But don't start there. Because if you're like, "This sounds uncomfortable," start with just the right 3 things and then go on. And then you can shift into different ways of doing it. But that one worked really well for me and just naturally progressed into this thing.
I love that. Make it special, make it a little thing for yourself. I never thought about that, but that's brilliant. It makes perfect sense because you're almost treating yourself to the opportunity to share things with yourself and then to start off simply. I love it. I absolutely love it.
And I will say, when you're done the journal, go back through and read. You don't have to read it like word for word, but like skim through it because what changed in there. Now, my gratitude journal also later became my manifestation journal together. And I would within my days, I would write out what I was grateful for and I would write out the things that I wanted. And to reread that, because I truly believe that everything came from gratitude first. To see that and to see everything show up in different ways than what I was expecting, it is mind-blowing when you revisit the past version of yourself who was just getting started on this journey.
Yeah, it's incredible. Then you get to see, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's where it came from. Or, oh, wow, look at this. This is like,
Yeah.
now it makes perfect sense. And now I understand what's going on. So I love it. Tori, thanks so much. That was awesome. I really appreciate it again. And if somebody wants to get a hold of you, you're a photographer, you're down in St. Augustine, you deal with personal branding, you deal with all sorts of stuff related to that. Can you throw out your information? So if anybody wants to get a hold of you,
I am personal branding photographer. I'm all about helping people show up authentically as themselves and growing their audience that way. I am just on Instagram. I'm at Tori Stauffer Photography. My website is toristauffer.com. And yeah, these are the best spots to find me.
perfect. And then for me, of course, it's tonydufresne.com or theconfidencedoc.com. And I've got the new ebook up if you want to grab that for $7. It's cheaper than a grande PSL and a cake pop. So if you want to save yourself 800 empty calories, learn something, then do that. You can also get a hold of me at Tony at theconfidencedoc.com. Good to see you. Thanks, Tori, again. And I will be back.